Hello dear viewers, my name is Dr. John Mohmad Pandit, Assistant Professor at the English Department, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Today in this video lecture, I will deliberate on writing introduction and conclusion, which means how to write introduction of any literary piece, for that matter any literary composition, or how to write a conclusion. Now, as you know that writing a compelling introduction and conclusion is crucial for any piece of writing, whether it is an essay or report, or for that matter any composition. In fact, one can determine the quality or the efficiency of a written piece by only looking at the introduction or the conclusion. Therefore, our introduction or the conclusion, it must be very compelling. If you are writing an essay, or for that matter, if you are writing any literary piece, or if you are writing a composition, you need to concentrate on the introduction and the conclusion. If your introduction and conclusion is compelling, is interesting, it will make your whole writing beautiful. That's why we say writing a compelling introduction and conclusion is crucial for any piece of writing. It's very important because the very introduction determines the quality of any literary piece or any written piece. If your introduction is capturing, attractive, beautiful, well organized, surely the reader will take interest in your writing. Therefore, one need to concentrate or one need to pay attention on how to write an introduction or conclusion of a written piece. And here in this video lecture, you will see some tips and examples for crafting effective introduction and conclusions. First of all, we will take introduction, how to write introduction, and why this introduction is very important for any written piece, be it an essay or composition or anything. Start your introduction with a hook. For example, you are writing an essay and you are writing the introductory part of an essay. That means the introduction. Start that introduction with a hook. And this hook, it will engage or it will involve the reader, or it will capture the attention of the reader. That's why engage your reader from the beginning with a compelling hook. Which means that state something at first which must be compelling, which must be interesting, or which must be catchy, so that the reader will find ample time to read your content or to read your writing. For example, as here, you can start like this. Did you know that the world's population is expected to reach 9 billion by 2020? This staggering growth poses significant challenge for global food security. Now here, such kind of headings or such kind of introduction naturally will capture the attention of any reader. Therefore, when you are going to write the introduction, set a hook which can capture the attention of the reader. A reader should find it very interesting, very catchy, very attractive, very alluring. And he should find urge in himself to go through the whole content. And the second point is provide background information. When you are writing an introduction, you are just introducing the topic. Therefore, one need to provide the relevant information regarding topic, or one need to provide the background of the topic. That's why we say offer relevant context to set the stage for the topic. In fact, it is the introduction that sets the stage for the topic. In introduction, we just introduce the topic. We give the context of the topic so that it will become easy for the reader as well as the writer to write further points. That's why in introduction, one need to offer context, or one need to provide background information about the topic so that it can become easy for the reader to find the coherence in the whole written content. For example, in the ever-evolving landscape of technology, artificial intelligence has emerged as a transformative force reshaping industries and societies. Now here, like this, we can provide the background information of a topic. Remember, when you are writing an introduction, provide background information of the topic or set the context of the topic so that it can become easy for the reader to go from one point to another point, or so that a reader can easily navigate through the whole content. And the next point is state the thesis or purpose. Clearly state the main point or the purpose of your writing. In the introduction, one need to provide the thesis. That means the point of view, or you can say the main point that the writer is going to say. Yes, of course, in later paragraphs, we can expand, we can explain that point of view through different analogies, through different comparisons, or through different examples. But the first and the foremost thing is that we should provide the thesis or the purpose of the topic in the very introduction. That's why here, like this essay explores. For example, you are writing an essay, and in the very introduction, you have to write like this. You have to state your purpose. You have to put forth the thesis statement like this. This essay explores the impact of climate change on biodiversity and argues for urgent global action to address environmental concerns. Here, this introduction, I set the thesis, or I state the thesis, or I set the purpose. I make it clear to the reader that this essay, it's going to be about the climate change, or it's about biodiversity. How this climate change, or for example, alters or affects our biodiversity. Therefore, one need to, if you are attempting to write an essay, in the very introduction, you have to state the thesis statement, or you have to state the purpose, or you have to put forth the thesis statement. The next one is outline the structure. Give readers a roadmap of what to expect in the upcoming sections. Here, in the very introduction, you can set the structure of your essay, or for that matter, any written piece. For example, when you're writing a research paper, in the very introduction, you set your purpose, you set the very structure of that research paper. You make it clear to the reader what's coming next, which point will follow after the introduction, and so on. Therefore, in the introduction, we can set the very structure of written piece, or the very structure of an essay. That's why we say the outline the structure. As here, in the following paragraph, we will examine the historical context, current challenge, and the potential solutions related to renewable energy adoption. Now look here. We make the clear the very structure, the very outline of paragraph. In the following paragraph, we will examine. Here, I set the structure of the paragraph. That's why when you are attempting to write an essay, just state the outline or the structure of your essay. Mention the very design of your essay. Make it clear to the reader what is the structure of this essay, how you have to navigate through the whole content. Therefore, one need to set the outline of any written piece in the very introduction. And pose a question. Yes, in introduction, you can pose a question. It will make it more interesting or the capturing, like stimulate the curiosity by posing a thought-provoking questions. You can pose a question in the very introduction, and that question will prove, or that question will arise curiosity among the readers, or it will stimulate their interest. That's why, like here, what if we could harness the power of renewable energy sources to not only meet our current needs, but also ensure a sustainable future for generations to come? Now here, you can introduce a question, or you can pose a question to the audience or to the reader, so as to develop his curiosity, so as to stimulate his curiosity, or simply so as to provoke him so that he can go through the whole content. And the next one is define terms if necessary. If your topic involves some particular kind of terms, or for that matter jargon, explain briefly these terms, or define these terms briefly, so as to avoid the ambiguity, so as to make it more and more clear. That's why we say, if your topic involves particular terms or concepts, briefly define them to enable clarity. For example, if your topic, some unknown term or the new term or something that everyone is not, everyone doesn't know, then make that term explicit, define that term for the reader so that your writing will find a clarity. The next one is create smooth transition. Ensure a smooth transition from the introduction to the main body of your work. The last sentence of the introduction should lead seamlessly into first paragraph. Now, create a smooth transition. That means you should move from one point to another point smoothly. It should appear as a natural. That means that your introduction must be spontaneous. One point should give rise to another point. Everything should follow a logical order. In fact, it should seem that there is a cause and effect in your paragraph. First line should give rise to the second, and the second line should give rise to the third, and so on. There must be a kind of spontaneity. That must be, everything must move in a very spontaneous manner. That's why we say that don't mix the confusing ideas, or don't assemble diversified ideas in a single para. Make it natural, make it smooth, make it spontaneous. Here it should appear that there's a cause and effect between the sentences. Now the next one, it's about conclusion. What should be our conclusion? That means the concluding part of any written piece. The first point is summarize key points. Recap the main points and arguments present in your writing. When you are writing a conclusion, you need to recap the main points, or you need to recap the argument presented in your writing. That's why we call it conclusion. In conclusion, we just recap or we just recall aforementioned points. For example, here, in summary, our analysis of the healthcare system reveals the need for comprehensive reforms in order to improve accessibility and affordability. Now, what we do in conclusion, we just recall, we just recap whatever we have mentioned earlier, so as to put a final verdict, so as to put a final say on that topic. The next one is recitate the thesis. Here, in conclusion, we can recitate the thesis. We can recall or we can write again the thesis. Thesis means the thesis statement which we have put in the first paragraph. Here we can recall that, we can remind, by recalling that thesis statement or that thesis, we just remind the reader the very central idea of or the purpose of our writing or paragraph. That's why it's very important. In conclusion, we just recall, we just remember, or we just recall the thesis statement which we have earlier put in the introduction. We just recall that so as to remind the reader of the central thesis or the purpose of this whole writing. For example, in conclusion, the evidence suggests that implementing strict regulations is crucial to mitigating the adverse effects of climate change on the coastal communities. Now here again, what I'm doing, I'm just recalling, I'm just recitating the thesis statement. Why? So as to make the reader aware about the central idea or the motive of my writing. Our next point is offer a solution or call to action. Now in conclusion, we provide a solution or suggest a course of action for the reader. Now in conclusion, it is better to set a task for the reader. Yes, of course, while writing a conclusion, we need to set a task for the reader or provide a solution. That's why we call it the conclusion. Here the conclusion provides a solution or suggest a course of action for the reader. For example, to address the challenge discussed, it's imperative that the policymakers prioritize investment in sustainable infrastructure and promote eco-friendly practices. Now here, when I say that it is imperative that the policymakers prioritize dash, I'm just making a suggestion, or I'm just putting forth my solution or the suggestion regarding that issue. That's why in conclusion, we can provide a solution or we can just suggest the course of action for the reader. Next one, circle back to the introduction. Here, reference or echo a point made in the introduction create cohesion. Now this is very important. In conclusion, you can go back to the introduction. You can go back to the introduction so as to create the unity in the written piece. So as to make your writing as a holistic, as a whole, complete in itself, not as a part. When you just introduce some points from introduction in any conclusion, you are just making it a whole. You are just making it holistic, or you are just providing a thread of unity in the written piece. That's why we say introduction to create a cohesion. For example, returning to our initial question about the global population, it's clear that innovative solutions are needed to ensure a balanced and secure future for all. Now, here again, I'm going back to the introduction, just as to create unity, just as to make the reader that this all writing, it's about one topic, it's about, there's a one motive or theme of this writing. The next one is end with a strong closing statement. Leave a lasting impression by crafting a powerful closing statement. You can end your conclusion with a very strong statement. And that strong statement will create everlasting effect or everlasting impression on the mind of the reader. Therefore, leave a lasting impression by crafting a powerful closing statement. Your closing statement must be powerful so that it can create a great impression on the mind of the reader. As for example, as we navigate the complexities of the digital age, embracing ethical consideration and fostering a culture of inclusivity will be key to shaping a future where technology serves humanity rather than the other way around. Now, uh, you can put a very strong statement at the end of conclusion, but not at the expense of unity. Your last statement, it should collate with the unity. It should appear that it's not the abrupt closing. In fact, it is the natural closing of your writing. And make your statement, make a strong statement so that it can create great impression on the mind of the reader. Now the next one is address so what question. Clearly articulate the broader implication or significance of your work. Here, in conclusion, you need to clearly articulate the broader implications or the significance of your work. Explain why your topic matters and how it contributes to the larger conversation. Now, in this conclusion, make a bold statement. And in that bold statement, set the very implications and the significance of your work. Now, the next one is consider the future. Here, consider the future means speculate on the potential future developments or implications related to a topic. Here, it will become a kind of futuristic. If you just speculate on a potential future development or implications related to a topic. Pose questions that encourage continued thought. Yes, in conclusion, you can pose some open-ended questions that will provoke readers to think about that topic. And that's why we often say that your conclusion, there must be something which should be related to our future, so that it will urge the reader to think about the future. The next one is, as I told you earlier, circle back to introduction. But this circle back to introduction, it's optional. If appropriate, reference an idea or the theme of your introduction to create a sense of closure. Now, here in the conclusion, you can go back to the introduction. You can take some point, or for that matter, you can take the thesis statement from the introduction, so as to make it as a whole, so as to develop a coherence or unity throughout that writing. Remember, the introduction and the conclusion are bookends to your writing. They're just like bookends. That means we start from a certain point and then come the middle and then the end. That means the closure. And they play a crucial role in shaping the reader's experience. Strive for clarity, coherence, and a sense of completeness in both sections. These are the important points. One is the clarity. Your piece of writing, it must be clear in every manner. Its structure must be fine. It should have a thematic unity, and there must be a clarity. That means the unity, coherence, logical order, and a sense of completeness in both sections. That means your introduction and conclusion, they must appear complete in itself. For example, if you are writing an introduction, it should appear as a whole, not as a part. It should appear complete. It should not end abruptly. In fact, it should end spontaneously, naturally. And now the next one is the importance of introduction. Here the first point is engagement and attention. An effective introduction captures the reader's attention from the start. It provides a hook or an interesting element to engage the audience. As I told you that your introduction, it must be very engaging, it must be very luring. It should capture the very attention of the reader. It should act as a hook so that it can draw every reader towards itself. That's why an effective introduction captures the reader's attention from the start. And your introduction, it must be effective, it must be catchy, it must be very attractive. It should urge a reader to go through the whole content. And the next one is establishing a relevance. Why the introduction is important? Because it is the introduction that sets the relevance of the topic. That's why we say the introduction sets the stage by providing context and the background information. It's the introduction that establishes the relevance of the topic. Why? Because in the context we put forth the context and the background information regarding that topic. That's why it's very important. In fact, it helps the reader understand why the topic is relevant or important. It is the introduction that tells the reader why the topic is relevant or important. That's why we say that it is the introduction that sets that establishes the relevance of the topic. The next one is guiding the reader. This introduction, it's important in a sense that it guides the reader. It tells the reader what's coming next. What is the structure of this writing? That's why we say by outlining the purpose and scope of the writing, the introduction guides the reader of what to expect. It serves as a roadmap for the entire piece. In fact, it is the introduction that acts as a roadmap, or you can say that it just guides the reader what follows the next, what's coming next, what is the structure, how the things will go in the rest of the paras, in the rest of the writings. Now the next is thesis statement. The introduction actually includes a thesis statement, which is a concise summary of the main argument or the purpose of the work. This statement helps focus the reader's attention. Now the next important thing is that in introduction we put the thesis statement. And this thesis statement, it gives us the crux of the whole writing. It provides us the motive of the whole writing. It gives us the complete picture of the whole writing. In fact, it is the thesis statement that puts forth the main argument or the main purpose of the work. Therefore, this statement can help the reader to focus on the writing. The next one is creating interest and curiosity. This introduction is important because it is the introduction that develops curiosity or that develops interest among the readers. That's why we say a well-crafted introduction sparks curiosity and generates interest in the reader. This curiosity encourages them to continue reading. If you know the art of writing an introduction, then surely you will introduce some elements in the introduction which will develop or which will provoke or which will incite or which will, for example, stimulate curiosity or interest among the readers so that they can go through the whole content. The next one is establishing credibility. It allows the author to establish their expertise on the topic, building credibility with the audience. It's the very introduction that helps us to establish the credibility. Because in the introduction, the author sets the very pros and cons of the topic. He makes everything explicit. He puts everything before the reader. In this way, he establishes a credibility. Now the next one is importance of conclusion. The first point is summarizing key points. In conclusion, we actually summarize the main points or the arguments presented in the body of the work. It simply reinforces the key ideas. That's why this conclusion is very important. Sometimes to save the time, we just read the conclusion so as to get the cracks, so as to get the main ideas or the main points of the whole writing. In this way, the conclusion is very important because in conclusion, we just summarize the main points. That's why we often say that it reinforces the key ideas. The next one is providing closure. As the conclusion name suggests, its conclusion, it provides closure to the reader, signaling that the discussion or argument is coming to an end. It gives a sense of completeness. As I told you that this conclusion, it provides the closure of the writing. It suggests to the reader that the writing is coming to an end. Therefore, when you put the last statement or when you write a conclusion, don't close your writing or the conclusion abruptly. You should make it more natural. It should be spontaneous. It should give the sense of completeness. And the next one is reinforcing thesis. We often, in conclusion, what we do, we often, for example, revisit to the thesis statement or to the main idea as mentioned in, for example, introduction. The conclusion reinforces the main argument or purpose of the writing. It helps us leave a lasting impression. When we revisit, for example, the thesis statement as put forth in the introduction, the conclusion reinforces the main argument or the purpose of the writing. And the next one is highlighting significance. The conclusion emphasizes the significance of the work. It answers so what questions, explaining why the topic matters and what broader implication it may have. Why the conclusion is important? Because in conclusion, we can set a question. We can set a question of, for example, so what? And in this way, we can state the very importance of the topic, or we can state the significance and implications of the topic. The next one is encouraging action. In certain types of writing, conclusion may include a call to action, encouraging readers to think, act, explore. Now, this conclusion, it can at times, for example, provoke a reader to take an action. That's why the conclusion is very important. It can urge a reader to do something, or to take an action, or to just explore further. That's why we say in certain types of writing, the conclusion may include a call to action, encouraging reader to think, act, or explore further. Now the next point is closing the loop. It may reference element from the introduction, creating a sense of symmetry and cohesion in the writing. This technique helps us bring the reader full circle. Now here, when we say the closing the loop, it again means that we can take some important points from the introduction so as to make it complete, or so as to complete the circle, or so as to make it as a whole, or so as to create oneness in the motive, theme, or purpose. The next one is leaving a lasting impression. The final words of a conclusion, or what the readers are likely to remember. That's why we say a strong closing statement leaves a lasting impression and reinforces the overall message. Here, this conclusion is important in a sense that it leaves a lasting impression on the mind of the reader. If you put a strong statement at the end, surely it will create a great impression, or surely it will create a lasting impression on the mind of the reader. It was all about this writing introduction and conclusion. These are the references for further reading. Hope you will have understood this topic. We will meet in the next video with another topic. Till then, goodbye.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.